control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Welcome, everybody, to the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I am thrilled that you guys are coming in and here with me. It's been a snowy slice of hell up here again today. Another 8 inches anyway that I had to shovel. Might have been a little bit more, might have been less. Hell, I don't know. It's just a big fluffy white hell outside. But it's pretty. God, it just comes off the roof and it sounds like thunder, like, because I've got a really steep pitch on the roof, and it just comes down in these huge sheets. It's a stainless, or not a stainless steel, but a steel roof with a really steep pitch. So it'll be up there and it'll get really thick, and then all of a sudden, boom. It's just funny. It sounds like thunder. No kidding. I don't know, but we've got a lot of snow. And I'm just thankful we still have power. It's been flickering around here. I was just talking to Julia, who also lives in the area. This Black Tree in the chat, of course. She's one of the mods, but she's telling me that some of the areas around us are actually without power. So, which for us it would really suck, because we have only. Well, I don't know if the gas heat would still continue. Maybe the heat would still continue, but I'm not sure if well, God, I don't know if it would still continue or not, to be honest with you, because I know the blower would quit, of course, because that's got electricity. But I don't know. Let's hope it stays electrical up around my neighborhood anyway, and for everybody. I don't like to hear anybody's without power, although most people up here have wood burning capability at least, or a fireplace. But I think this house probably had that at one time, but all those have been walled in for generations now. This is a pretty old house, but I guess we'll just have to snuggle up and stay warm. But anyway, hope you guys are doing good. I'm other than going out and shoveling again, I'm doing just fine. But it worked out okay, because as I was out there, and it's kind of weird. It's just weird how it works. I was going out and I had just started shoveling the walk, and this isn't really paranormal in nature, but it is kind of serendipity. So I was outside, just starting to shovel. I'm just like, oh God, why am I here? Why am I here? And then all of a sudden this SUV slows down. It's a white SUV, slows down right in front of my house. And these people are hollering. This lady's hollering. She goes, "Hey, do you need any help shoveling your walk?" I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, do you need help?" I'm like, "Well, I got this. I got one of those electric blowers that was given to me by a buddy of mine. And it works good, except for the fact that it has a cord, and I don't have a lot of extension cord, so I can do it for a while, and then it always unplugs, and I got to run laps to keep plugging it in. So I got to figure out a better way to do that." But I was like, "Well, I got one of these." She goes, "Yeah, everybody's got snow blowers around here." And I was like, "Well, if you guys want to help me just a little bit, could you dig out, because I got a sidewalk that goes out into the street." They're like, "Yeah." And all of a sudden 2 guys fly out of the car. And the next thing I know, there's this flurry of snow in the air. And these 2 guys are just busting their hump on this. And there's snow flying everywhere, and they got it done. And I gave them like some money just to say thank you. And I got to talking to him, and one guy's talking to me. The other guy continues shoveling, and they shoveled most of my walk for me. It was really, really cool. But it turns out that they're both into the paranormal as well, and they're in the area, and they were talking about these areas that we could check out. So it was really cool, and that was really fun. It was Fritz and Rob. I met Fritz and Rob today, so I'm gonna get in touch with those guys when the weather becomes much nicer. And I'm trying to remember the girlfriend's name. I don't remember. I'm terrible with names, as you all know, but she was a sweetheart, just a real kind, nice bunch of people. It was really cool to be able to meet them and to talk with them, and it's just funny how that stuff works. So hopefully we'll be able to get out with them a little bit this summer or spring and summer and check some things out. So if we do, we'll try to stream it and bring it to you guys live out from the field in the area here. So anyway, I am thrilled you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks again to Fritz and Rob, if you're listening. I really appreciate it. You guys showed up at just the perfect time. It was really cool. And again, it's just serendipity when things work out so well. I'm hoping they'll show up tomorrow too, because it's still snowing. I know they won't, because it was a day off kind of thing. They were just running around trying to help people. So really cool though. Really, really cool. But anyway, I got a good show lined up for you guys. Hopefully I got a good show lined up for you. At least I believe I do. And I hopefully can keep you entertained for a while here. So if all goes well, you'll be entertained, and I will have done my job. So I don't know if I got anything else. Remember to stay tuned for the brand new podcast. Is going to be available after midnight tonight. So check the podcasting platforms you use to check out the Paranormal Portal podcast. And that is, again, iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, a bunch of other ones too. There's just a huge laundry list of companies that carry the Paranormal Portal podcast. So essentially wherever you can find Sasquatch Chronicles, you can find the Paranormal Portal. So we're on the same network. So that's a kind of a easier way to explain it, I guess. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling ready. So I'm hoping you're ready, because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are underway here on the Paranormal Portal. We have now breached the gap, and I can start out with a quick... No, I think I read this one. So I'm going to close this one. I got to pull up some stories here quick. How the hell did I get way up here? It's all shifted on me. It's all a shifty experience, of course. So I don't know if you guys are getting good weather or bad weather. I know everybody seems to be getting snow right now, so my heart goes out to you, except for those people that are lucky enough to live south where there isn't really snow. But even then, I think I saw our good friend Marshall post a picture. They had some snow. I think in Texas is where he is. So I guess even there. But I think the snow for the most part is pretty temporary, so I could probably handle that. I don't know. But anyway, the first story tonight is, oddly enough, coming from Texas. I just pulled up a handful of them. The first one's from Texas. So funny, that should be the first one. But I suppose I should mention the call-in lines will be open throughout the duration of the show. If any of you have a paranormal experience, ghosts, UFO, Bigfoot, whatever you want to share, please call in and talk to us. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. So hopefully get some action there on the hotline. It's a paranormal hotline or something like that. But anyway, let's get into this. Says, my first experience with the paranormal happened when I was 8 years old and living in Houston, Texas. My parents had just been divorced for about a year, and I was camping in the living room on a Saturday night. So I lived with my sister and my mom at the time. I stayed up late watching TV and was getting ready to turn it off, blow out the candle I had lit, and just go to sleep. And that's when the shadows flickered, as if a breeze had blown out the flame of the candle around. I thought maybe my mom or sister had opened the hall door or entered from the front room of the house, so I turned to see who it was. What I saw caused me to pull the covers over my head. The candle, stand and all, was floating between the bookcase I'd set it on and our dining room table. And I remember this vividly. I turned to see who was there, thinking it was my mom or younger sister, and there was my candle just floating there. After a couple of minutes, I peeked out from under my covers, and the light seemed to be coming from the same place, so I looked towards the candle, and there it was floating. I blinked and looked around the room, and as I did so, I saw the shadows shift as the candle moved back onto the bookcase. I know it went back to where it had started because that's where it sat now. I took a deep breath and went to check it out, and I know the candle had been moved because there was some wax on the bookcase that had spilled off the candle stand. I never felt anything, no cold spots, no hot spots, nothing. I didn't see any human-shaped shadows or anything that could have been holding the candle. I went to the bathroom and looked into my mother's room, and both my mother and sister were sleeping there, and from this experience began my interest in the supernatural and paranormal. Wow. That's pretty hardcore. I don't know. I think that people expect that there's always going to be these other signs, like there's always going to be a cold spot, or there's always going to be some visible apparition or shadow or something. But, a lot of times there isn't. They certainly can happen in sequence with, objects moving or not, but, there's no laundry list that they have to abide by. It's just that I think that when we feel the cold spots is when they're probably, quote unquote, energizing by perhaps deriving the heat energy from the air in order to use that as a spiritual energy. I don't know. That's the abounding theory on the cold spots, but it's really anybody's guess why they generate cold spots. But a lot of people believe that they use the heat energy in the air and it creates these random cold spots. And they're usually moving cold spots, which would, of course, indicate an intelligence of sorts. But anyway, who knows? That's some creepy stuff. The next story we're going to cover comes from North Carolina. That's Deb's stomping grounds right there. It says, I haven't had anything happen recently, but I'll give you an explanation of the layout of the area that I had my encounter at. There's a hallway on the ground floor of my house, and it has my bedroom, and next to it is my parents' bedroom. And then the wall cuts at a weird angle, and there's a door to the bathroom there. One time I was in the bathroom getting ready to take a shower, and I had the curtain pulled back, and I was looking towards the wall when there was a hook there for towels to be hung on, and I was hanging my towel on it before I stepped in the shower. In the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a ghost that looked like a lady around her mid-20s. And I'm not sure because by the time I turned to look, she was gone. In the bathroom, you can also hear noises like plastic sliding on the sink or sounds like people whispering. It really creeps me out, and I always feel like someone is home with me when I'm home alone. And that was the only time I encountered a ghost in my house as well. Also, there was an incident with a ghost upstairs. I guess there's a second time then, isn't there? It looked like a girl in cowboy clothing, and it was around the top of the stairs looking over at one of the rooms off to the side. It really creeped me out, and I turned around and returned to my kitchen afterwards. Since those two times, I've never had an encounter with a ghost. Any explanations will be appreciated. You got a ghost. I'm just going to go out on a limb here, ladies and gentlemen, and say, you got a ghost. I think there's, I'm going to have to research this more. I've oftentimes heard mention of, we always hear mention of, out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone standing there. I saw a figure. I saw an apparition, but it's always the corner of the eye. And then, of course, when the person turns their focus to focus on what's, directly on that figure, the figure is always gone. And so, excuse me, sorry. So what I think is going on there is that I know there's physiological differences between the retina and how it perceives things straight on versus peripherally. But I think what I'm wondering, and I'm going to have to research this a bit, but I know many people are well aware of the fact that there is a bunch of things that go on. And in fact, listener Sam talked about it today. She's like, we can only process 40 bits of information every second, or 40. I forget the term she used, but she got it from some research she had done. When in fact there are roughly 11 million bits of information going on at any specific time, but our eyes and brain will only process 40 of those. So I wonder if out of the peripheral, if whatever portion of our brain deals with, interpreting peripheral vision, because I don't suspect it's probably the same as what directly interprets what we're looking at and processes what we're looking at. It seems to be maybe a different region of the brain, as well as perhaps that the retina has different types. I've heard cones and rods before, so I've heard lots of different mention of the mechanics of the eye and the fact that so much is going on that we just can't perceive. We know there's colors that we can't perceive with our eyes. There are great spectrums of light, and our vision only encompasses a small portion of that spectrum. And that's what we, see and experience with our vision. But that is not to say that there isn't more, going on that we can't quite see. But I often wonder if maybe our peripheral vision has a different light tuning to catch movement more so than specific detail like our main focal points. I wonder if there's something to that. And maybe that's why people see these apparitions peripherally out of the corner of their eye. But then when they turn to look, it doesn't exist. And maybe it's not the spirit that's leaving, it's just the inability to perceive it. Now, I do believe that spirits can shift that and move into the visual spectrum, because we always hear of these apparitions that people are experiencing. And oftentimes, or many times, these apparitions can be anything from translucent kind of light going through them to looking as real as anybody else you'd ever see. So I think spirits have the ability to do that, but may not do that regularly. And so maybe, I don't know. There's got to be something to that, though. There's something to that. And I'm going to have to really do some research on the mechanics of our vision and how it works in relation to the paranormal, and why it's always out of the corner of my eye I see this. Why do we catch things so specifically on the corner of our peripheral vision, but when we focus on it, it's not there? And I think it has more to do, again, with the mechanics of our eyes, how they work, how our brain interprets what our eyes are seeing, than it is the spirit just being skittish. I think they're there. They're probably still there when we look directly at them, but our main focal area of our eyes doesn't perceive them quite as clearly. But we'll have to look into that. And if anybody knows, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. I'm sure Sam will give me more details when she doesn't usually make the live shows, but she always leaves these excellent comments on the YouTube. And I really enjoy those. I think it's great when you guys contribute to the conversation, because I don't pretend to know it all. I really don't. I mean, I have some pieces of knowledge. I have things that I feel pretty comfortable expressing with you guys as my facts, not necessarily yours, but mine. However, physiological, functions such as our vision and stuff, I don't know that much about. So I don't pretend to know, but I think there must be something to that. Excuse me. So I think that's a cool story, though. Let's go on to the next one. And this one's coming out of the District of Columbia. That's such a wee little place. They still got activity, though. Just goes to show you it's happening everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Even in D.C. God knows there's a lot of paranormal happening there. But it's more in the terms of politics than anything. But let's see what's going on. All right. This happened several years ago when I lived with my mom in an efficiency apartment in the Northwest Washington, D.C. I never felt easy in that apartment, and then strange things started to happen. The main room connected to the bathroom by way of a short hallway, and every time I walked down the hallway, I felt like I was being followed. Mom said the very same thing. There was also a hall closet that we kept our coats and jackets, and Mom put a jacket in the cleaners one day, and it somehow appeared back in the closet. We each thought the other had gotten it out of the cleaners, but neither one of us had. Wow, that's pretty cool. Save money that way. We also had a bed and a sofa in the main room. One night, I woke up and saw an arm sticking straight up from behind the sofa. Other people might say I was dreaming, but I know I was awake. We also had a large eat-in kitchen, and I've never liked it in there. I always felt really uneasy, so when I would close the kitchen door at night, I would be too afraid to reach in. So I would put my fingers in the crack of the door where the hinges are and close it that way. One time I felt something very cold touch my fingers when I did this. Also in the kitchen, once the door was partially open, I saw what looked like a red cloth floating around in there, but when I opened the door, completely saw nothing. When I opened the door completely, saw nothing. I can remember to pay attention to punctuation, ladies and gentlemen. All these things in my mom has corroborated as well, but I never found out who or what was in the apartment. Please let me know what you think. I have no way to prove any of these things, but I remember them very clearly. I don't know. Very strange. I guess, Washington, D.C., there's a hell of a lot of crimes and murder there, though. So not that that's required to have a haunting, but it certainly helps. I think it definitely helps to charge the environment for the paranormal. But yeah, that's too bad. Again, it doesn't seem really malicious, though. It's just presences. Nothing was going out of its way to hurt anybody. It was just seeming to want to make the presence known. And that seems to be a real big common denominator in 90+ % of these stories. I just think they want to be noticed. They want to be acknowledged. Sorry, I had to wet the whistle. Much better. I've got a couple calls, though, so I better get to those. And the first one off the bat is our very own Mr. MCAT. How you doing, brother? Are you there?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
You know what? It's been a good day. I'm up in Maryland. It's blue. It was a beautiful blue sky today. 70 degrees. It's about 60 right now. I can stand these kind of winters. I tell you what.
Yeah. Well, you can come over and try ours out if you want. If you need a little fluffy white stuff, we got some. Just a thought. But how's the road going? Good.
Oh yeah. Good. Oh yeah. Things are good.
Good. So what do you think? Do you have something about the vision? I think you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right in that your peripheral is for motion detection.
Okay.
Like you've got cones which are more densely populated in your peripheral, and those sense black and white, and so that's kind of their main job is to sense motion, and that's why a lot of these things you see out of the corner of your eye is because you're detecting motion in low light.
Mm.
The other part of it, and I'm trying to look deeper into this. I'm still working on this one, but it seems that even though visible light's about 1% of it, we miss a lot of that information only because of the biological limitations of our eye and how that information is handled in the brain. And so we seem to see what we're focused on and what is important to us at the time. And so a good example of this is motorcycle or car accidents, and a car will pull out right in front of a motorcycle, and in the aftermath, the person driving the car will say, well, I never saw him. The guy just came right out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's because if you're driving a car, you're not looking for motorcycles unless you know to look for motorcycles. And if you don't look for motorcycles, you're not going to see any.
Right. Good point.
And so what I'm wondering is there a correlation to The paranormal, I mean, could be paranormal, UFO, cryptology. If you're not looking for these things, you're not going to see them.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. We certainly, it's like if you're looking for a ring, you're already programming your vision to search for everything that looks like a circular ring-like object, and so everything all of a sudden, it just stands out when it meets that parameter. So you're probably right. We probably need to program our vision and along with our mental process to search for that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's we're going to require some more data. Like we've got to come up with some way to try and test this. But yeah, I
Yeah.
really think that is what's happening.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right, brother. I think that's a brilliant point about, tuning your intention. I think is also a big part of it. Whenever we're, of course, whenever we're in a heightened, maybe as Shell always says, Shell Dion always talks about adrenalized state. And I think that's a great word because, sometimes you just walk into a room and something feels wrong. You don't know what it is, but I think that hypersensitizes us to look for that motion and that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of times in some paranormal instances, the room can have a vibe. It'll have a very specific vibe, and people pick up on that, and it probably sends them into an adrenalized state where they're more prone to pick up that kind of subtleties.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's right. That's an interesting point. That
Yeah. Well,
because that does happen where you walk into a place and something ain't right, and
yeah.
you should listen to that because it's trying to tell you something.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I love these conversations, is when we can share ideas and bounce things back and forth. I mean, it just becomes this whole escalating dialogue of potential understanding. I think that's powerful, and that's what I love about this show.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate your input on this. And yeah, I mean, if you figure out anything more about it, I'd love to hear about it, okay?
You got it, man. Have a good night. I will talk to you later.
And enjoy that balmy weather for me, will you?
I absolutely will.
All right, brother. We'll
All
talk to
right.
you
I'll see
soon.
you later, man.
Okay, see you now. Okay, and we are going to go to our next call. And this is our very own Sean calling in. Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I love the shirt. Goonies never say die.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, okay, so you guys were discussing the about the vision, and I wanted to tell you stuff that I'd learned more recently and give you an interesting event that happened in a place that I didn't expect it to occur. But something you're probably going to want to look up is called tetrachromacy. According to the latest research, there are some humans, and I'm one of them, who can actually see about 9 million colors. The standard for humanity is 1 million.
Oh,
And this extra 8 million color perception actually comes along from the X chromosome, so we get it from our mother.
okay.
And this is kind of interesting because though I got my ability to see ghosts from my dad's side of the family, my mother's side, goes back to being, to being gifted as well, and she could still sense things.
Hmm.
So apparently it skips generations, and it landed on me with both feet. And so tetrachromacy actually allows you to be able to see tons of new colors in green and also in blues. And the entire modification to the genome actually sits in the cones of the eye. And you can look this
Oh.
up.
Hmm.
It's one of the things I was very interested in trying to figure out is how large of a vision I have, and the latest 18 colors of blue are something I can define. So I keep my eye scientifically to this because I really want to understand it as much as I want to actually help people to understand for themselves.
Hmm.
So this this explains the reason why in some people they'll be able to see the things out of the corner of their eye because tetrachromacy has multiple varying levels, and there's 4 different levels to it. And the mutation, basically it's an expansion of vision, takes place further and further into the corners of the eye, depending on how low down the mutated level of the X chromosome that's passed to you that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for some people, all that they'll be able to see is out of the corner of their eyes. Sometimes if they turn towards them, they're able to see it a little bit more, such as my dad. If he looked at it dead on, like he could look directly at the ghosts, they would disappear when he was staring at them directly. But he could see them out of the corner of his eye, turn, and get them mostly into his field of vision. But if he locked eyes dead with it, gone.
Oh, okay.
So it tells me both sides of my family had this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so now to give you an idea of how, for myself, they just don't pop out. Legoland, went there for Christmas, actually for my wife's birthday, back in December. Took the whole family. Now, this is a place where I really never expect to see a ghost, right? Never would ever expect to see anything paranormal. But actually, this time around, because of my son's prodding, I kept track to see if there were people that were doing things that were not exactly normal, just to make sure that there were, because of course to me they all look like normal human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So this time around, I'm paying more attention. We're going to the new submarine ride, and my youngest son and I are running to get there as quickly as possible. Karen and Trevor are behind us. They're back around the corner going slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm chasing with Eric up there. There's three people in front of us, dead ahead. I'm staring right at them. Locked eyes with with the gentleman with dark hair. He looks at me, smiles, and starts walking through through where the line, going around the chains for the line to the left of me, which is to the right of the ride. And two other gentlemen. One person walks away from the main person and into the ride itself. And this other guy, he's looking right at me. And he's the gentleman who's going to take pictures of us. He wants to take pictures of us in different poses because we're about to go on the submarine ride with basically when he snaps a picture, different backgrounds appear behind us.
Oh, okay.
So as the guy is passing me to my left, I'm watching him. And I'm looking dead at him. And he's already started to look away, and he walks past a pillar. And I've got this funny feeling, like all of a sudden, like a dry sensation. And I exhaled, and I felt a poop, sort of like like that, and he was gone. And there's no place for this guy to go.
Oh.
So I stop, I look back. Basically, when something cut off my vision, he disappeared. I didn't want to try and drag him back, and I realized it was a ghost. But he was a ghost in a Legoland uniform. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I hadn't heard of anybody dying there, so this was a bit of a shock, and I looked it up, nobody had died there. So apparently to some people, when they retire and pass on, this is someplace they like to return to, which is common for Disneyland, because I've actually locked eyes with, I can't tell you how many people who are walking around the park that are still cleaning the park, and they're not alive, which is pretty funny.
Well, it's the happiest place in the world.
So the guy takes our pictures. Yeah. And for the afterlife too.
Uh-huh.
And so now the person who had gone ahead, I just followed the person who went that way, and he looked at me crazy. I said, "It's okay, it's okay." I realized that it was another person, another ghost, and there's only two people that were running the ride. One person who's in the command center, who's making sure that the subs keep moving,
Sure.
and a person who makes sure that they all get on board cleanly and don't fall, because the subs never stop.
Oh.
And I looked to make sure that that neither of them were the person that I'd seen. And I asked my youngest, I said, "Did you see the person that walked past us to the left?" And he looked at me, kind of surprised, and he's like, "Yeah," but he didn't see the other person who had gone on towards the ride. So I'm not sure. But either he wasn't paying attention, or he was too interested in getting to the ride, or whatever. But that's another interesting factor. I still have to check his vision, but he did see the other guy.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was interesting in that regard.
So what do you suppose the odds are that this is very common with people that do see spirits? That this condition is actually why people see spirits?
I would like to be able to test people on this to see,
Yeah.
because I'm not really sure. It's not like I've polled it. I'd like to be able to talk to people who can see,
Right.
and those who have varying levels of the vision, and ask them specifically. And also, it would explain, even for people who only have the base level of the mutation, why they see ghosts more easily at night, because now they're definitely engaging just the cones. They're no
Right.
longer engaging the rods in their vision, and their mind relaxes. This is also something which might be happening to just about anybody as well, who they're no longer using the center of their vision, they're using the corners.
Oh, that's an interesting point. That's a great point actually, because when you meditate, you can have your eyes open, but you're really not looking at anything. So you're not really filtering your visual field. It's just there as a focal point in a meditative state, but you're not examining something. So are you disengaging those rods and relying on just a field of vision of cones? That's interesting. Good point.
Right. Now, in my case, I can actually focus dead on them and still be able to see them, but it's not as easy, because then I have to use more energy in order to be able to keep them visual.
Oh, okay.
And almost, especially if I'm not paying attention to it, when they when my wife was having her hysterectomy at a very haunted hospital, and a lady walked up to me in a hospital gown, and I turned and looked right at her, and as I did, she faded from view, and then I had to focus and then bring her back so that I could look dead at her. I just thought somebody was walking up with the possibility of telling me something about my wife's surgery, because it had gone on for 4 hours, and they said it was going to be an hour. So my mind was in other places.
Sure. Okay. Gotcha. Oh, this is great. This is very interesting.
But dead on, straight ahead, looking right at them, I have to relax my eyes so that in the same way that when you're looking at those old 1980s photographs, that if you look at it long enough, you can see the hidden three-dimensional picture within it.
I hated those
that
things.
kind of thing.
I hated those things, for the record. I never could get them to work.
They were really hard. They're really hard to pick the particular time, the way that they want you to. They never told you that what you really needed to do was get within about 5 feet of them, cross your eyes as hard as possible, and then slowly uncross them, and then it would become more visible quickly.
Oh, okay, that might have helped.
And that's literally the
okay.
But they want it. The whole point is because it wouldn't be as much fun if you knew how to do it dead on every time. And you wouldn't want to put one in your house, because now you can see that's a squirrel, that's the Starship Enterprise, that's a chipmunk, that's a lady who's dancing, that kind of thing.
Sure.
If it's too easy, it's not worth collecting.
I guess not. Oh, that's cool. That's wonderful, and thank you for that input. That's really powerful, and you've really brought a lot of things into my thinking to help understand this a little better.
And I wish I could give you more answers to it, but I'm still. Of the people that can see ghosts that like me, I'm the only one I know that sees them as well as I do. Joel sees them, but it's always out of his peripheral vision, and he usually will look down, and he'll be able to sense them as much as see them. And I mean, I can stare dead at them. I've actually had them come up to me, and it's rather intimidating to some folk, where they'll put their face right in my face to see if I'm actually looking them in the eye.
That's interesting.
I don't know if that's out of animosity or just trying to make it like Sam Wheat in Ghost, going, "Can you see me? Are you actually looking at me?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that the expression on their face is kind of deadpan.
Right. Oh man, there's so many stories that we cover on the show where people are sleeping and get that vibe like somebody's right there, and they open their eyes and there's someone staring right in their face, like right in their face. And it's like, oh my God, what a horrible thing. I mean, and I wonder, why would they do that? But maybe they're just trying to wake people up to be seen too. That might be it.
Well, there's that, and there's also when they want you to be frightened. Because of my work with Barbara,
Yeah.
I actually unlocked a memory that I had not even thought about in ages, about this thing that actually used to stay in my room and would frighten me and change the shape of the shadows. And would frighten me terribly. The first time I remembered him, I went into a PTSD, just wrapped my arms around myself, and it was shaking so bad that Barbara had to tap me down and talk to me, because I was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely gone. All of the memories had been stuck behind well, you've outgrown this barrier, and yet it just tumbled out over me. And this thing that she named Melvin, because you don't want to leave your fears as nameless dreads. You want to give them a name.
Okay.
And I respect that. She's very wise.
Yeah.
And so she named him Melvin. And Melvin used to hit me, yank my leg, put his face right in mine. So I actually learned to sleep on my face. If I got out of bed, he would reach out from the shadows under this old. My father was great about liking to go to these antique shops and repurpose antique things into modern stuff, such as turning an old street, like a street light, the kind that you would actually turn manually left and right, so that you would know the traffic in two directions would have to stop. And so it would be done by a person who would turn it and then turn it back and forth. Would say stop and go, and had red and green lights appropriately, but these were huge ones. And I've seen how they were used in the past. My dad put a light in there, but when this was out, it cast a huge shadow, and under it is where Melvin would hide. And if I needed to go to the restroom, he knew, and he would reach out and try and grab me, and he took great pride in smacking me, making me too afraid to move. And this is all at night, because it was easiest for me to see him. This is, oh my gosh, probably between the time when I was 7 and 11. And he was, he made it so that my nights were terrible. I would hold needing to go to the restroom until the dawn, and this caused, I can't tell you how many bladder infections and how much actual damage, bedwettings, because I couldn't get away. And he just left on his own because of the fact that we started to rescue so many cats, and he did not like the presence of them, because they would come down into the bedroom. And they made him back off. Wasn't any ability I had.
Sure. Huh.
So if folks, I can't give you a better recommendation to go to your shelter and find a kitty cat that calls out to you and says they love you, because I guarantee you're going to have a lot of love. And the home that you make warm and protected may just be your own.
Yeah. Yep. Good point. Yeah. I got a cat myself. He's a bundle of love, but I like that he's here. It just feels like, they're just, I don't know, they got a foot in both worlds,
And that, if it wasn't for I can tell you the one that was the one that drove off Melvin. My mom named him Tom. He was a hunter, but he never killed anything he hunted. He always brought back everything alive. This cat was so good at what he did. He actually could catch crayfish from a guy who was breeding them three doors down and bring them back alive.
Oh, wow. That's a gift.
And he was incredible at it. Birds, mice, rabbits. He was insanely good at it. We ended up with so many rescues, and it was giving away other animals, including the bunny rabbits, like mad. But Melvin was frightened of Tom, and he did not want to stick around after Tom decided this was the place he wanted to live.
Oh, cool.
So.
That's really cool, brother. Well, thank you so much for calling in, man. It's great to hear from you as well. And Happy New Year to you and your family.
Happy New Year to you guys, too. And thank you for having me. Let me just chatter about vision and things that I've seen.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you brought to the table too. And again, that's the beauty of these discussions is, when we can build on each other and try to drill down to some kind of, logic to this. And I really appreciate that. I hadn't heard of it. What was that condition again? what?
It's called tetrachromacy.
Tetrachromacy. Okay. And are there online tests?
Tetra Tetrachromacy. There should be tests.
Okay.
I've taken several. They keep popping them up on Facebook.
Okay.
I'd seen them a lot. I think there's even a UK lens store that offers I think if you put in tetrachromacy, Google will give you links to a bunch of different pages that give you the different colors so you can see the differences.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I would like to check into that because I think that's very intriguing.
And I think it's also the reason why not every cat can see metaphysical, but most of them can because they have an inordinate level of cones, and some breeds have a better time than others, and some dogs do, but others don't. And where like this mutt will be able to see it, but this purebred whatever can't see a thing. Like I've got a line bred Samoyed, and he can't see a thing. He can't see anything at all, but I have 3 cats that can follow anything that walks through in the astral in my house. But my dog can sense when the fae are in the backyard doing stuff, and he'll go out there and bark and run around. But I know he doesn't see them. It's more like he's hearing them. So
Sure.
there's always that, right?
Right. Oh, that's very cool, man. Well, again, thank you so much for calling in, brother. It's
Okay. Well, I'll let you.
Wonderful pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
thank you for having me, and have a good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night. Sean is by far the quickest hanger-upper of anybody. I don't even have to worry about it. I mean, I start grabbing my mouse and boom, he's already disconnected. He's very good at it. We have another caller here. This looks to be, I think it's Naysay, but let's see. Hello, caller at 701. You're on the air.
I think you know that the blind guy is going to give a call when it starts talking about sight.
You have a very unique perspective, sir.
Well, I mean, to preference it, I haven't been blind my entire life.
Yeah.
And when I started losing my sight 12 years ago, you cannot believe how much I prayed to every entity known in the universe that I keep my sight until my youngest, excuse me, was born. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I always get a little emotional.
Yeah.
Because I lost my sight 3 months after my youngest was born. Oh. But in that race and that challenge of trying to keep my sight, I wanted to add to the previous caller, and a wonderful caller on that. If you extend your hand in front of you and you put your thumb up, you get the thumbs up like Fonzie. And if you close one eye at a time, you will see how your thumb will shift from right to left.
Right. Yep.
So when we are focusing on things, when the gentleman that previously called talked about seeing out of the corner of your eye, it's not literally the corner of your eye, it's the corner of your iris, where your pupil is. Because that's where we actually see from, is our pupil. And just as I was talking about where you have your dominant eye and your other eye, sometimes when your less dominant eye will pull off of focus a little bit, this is when I believe we are having that ability and the chance to witness those things on the other scale of what the previous caller was talking about, the visual spectrum. Because there's also a thing known as Occam's razor, where because of the overabundance of information that we're taking in through our pupils is so huge, the brain will take the focus of the pupil and try to denote what that is, instead of the entirety of what the pupil says. Because with Occam's razor, if we are looking at something that we cannot comprehend, or if we are not willing to digest, we won't see it. And this is kind of like the gentleman was talking about before, that when we start noticing and start detecting these entities that are just beyond our visual spectrum, then we do start looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was talking about that, I forgot the term he called it again. In our pupils, there are heavy metals. And because of those heavy metals, we are able, because heavy metals do electromagnetic occurrences.
Okay.
Okay, so that when we are directing our focus through our pupil on something, what we are witnessing is a bombardment of electromagnetic fields. Like the sun, it sends its electromagnetic field at something. The electromagnetic field from our eyes also meet that, and where they meet at the point is when we discern it and we say, oh, that's a rock,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gray, or it's blue, But then because of that metal in our eyeballs, all animals on the earth have a different ratio of these metals. And so they all are able to see a little bit more and a little bit less of that spectrum. And this is why we always see that dichotomy of the snake. And what do they always show as the natural enemy of the snake? But the bird.
Yeah.
And this is because the snake and the bird have such dipolar opposites when it comes to what they can see in the electromagnetic field.
Mm.
But yeah, spending time to see, this is why I continue to say, entities, we are miracles. How can we not be anything but miracles when our physiological body has the ability to use this electromagnetic thing we call a brain and sending microscopic bolts of lightning between neurotransmitters and receivers, and we're using that to not only move, but at the same time talk and go through the chat and type something and listen to something all at the same time.
Yeah.
So if any of you have really wanted to see a miracle, just look in the mirror.
Very cool.
Because that's what you all are.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you all for being the miracles you are, especially Deborah. I love you, Deb. Thanks for the words of advice. And of course, Brent, my man crush for you. But if I must be frank, Don is always catching up to you.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Well, I'm okay. We can share you.
All right. I love you all, and thank you for the opportunity. And wham, bam, I'm gone. Toodles.
Wham, bam. He did pretty quick on the hang up too tonight. Wow. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of funny. It's again, these shows kind of write themselves. When I started doing the portal, I used to really anguish over the material and what we were going to discuss and what we were going to do. But I got to tell you, after seeing all those plans go awry into something else, which is fine. I mean, it's never been a bone of contention for the most part, but it's like one point brought up in a show will become the discussion for the rest of the show. And that's wonderful. I think that was cool. And I love it when these kind of shows happen because it's us having a conversation. It's us exploring and trying to understand. And I think about this stuff all the time. I really do. I'm probably obsessed with it in a sense, but hopefully in a positive way. But I just want to understand this paranormal. I want to understand why it is people see things. What's going on? What are the mechanics at work? Why is it happen to some people and not others? Why do some people see and not other people? And some people hear but other people don't. And I just want to understand, what does that mean? And so when these discussions happen, I think it's us pooling our thoughts, pooling our knowledge, pooling that information, and just building on each other. And hopefully I'm leaving this show with a better understanding than I started it with, which is wonderful. And I hope you guys did as well. I hope so. Bromance Chronicles. Absolutely, Barry. And love you too, Barry. So there you go. You get some bromance as well. But it's just the way it works out. It doesn't have to be planned. It doesn't have to follow a flow chart. And I love these shows, even in the podcast. I always tell the people I'm going to interview, look, I just want this to be a discussion. I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want to come at you with, here's my questions, be ready to answer these. And a lot of shows are built that way, and that's fine. That's okay. But I find the most interesting discussions are when the discussion naturally evolves and builds and becomes becomes its own entity in a manner of speaking. So I hope you guys love that too, but I definitely do, and I really appreciate everyone who stepped up tonight to take part in the conversation. I'm sorry I couldn't watch the chat more, because I did see someone talk about being in ophthalmology for the last 5 years, and they could email a lot of information about this. I'd love to hear that, and I hope you do that. I hope you email and let me know. Thank you, Sam Squatch. Sam Squatch says, awesome show. That's amazing. Yeah. So thank you all for being here and being a part of the show. I love you all dearly. I will be back, of course, tomorrow night with more of the night terrors here on the Paranormal Portal. So I hope you'll join me 7 days a week, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. There's a portal going on live here on YouTube. So 7 days a week, you can catch up with us. And 3 times a week, the podcasts are released on Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, iTunes, and many, many more other foundations. So check it out. That gives you 10 Paranormal Portal episodes every week. So I don't know what more I can give you guys, but I'm giving you all I've got. So I hope you're loving it and enjoying it. And thank you all for those of you who came in to chat, and those of you who are just sitting back listening quietly. That's always okay too. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And a special thanks again to Fritz and Rob that I met today outside shoveling. And I think I'm trying to remember the girl's name. It almost just had it. I almost had it, and then it was gone. But all 3 of you were amazing, and it was great to meet you, and I hope to stay in touch. So good night, everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful, brilliant sleep. And you have a wonderful day tomorrow. It's Monday, but just send it out to the universe. It's going to be a great day. And try to bring that into fruition. We got to program our lives, We are the programmers. We are the architects. So anyway, love you all. Take care, and sweet dreams.